Margaret. I now have my B.Ed. I've registered with SAY, so I have my B.Ed. I'm about to complete my B.Ed, and I'm thinking of weighing my options. Where am I going to teach? Where will I teach? Hello and welcome to Rewind the Lesson. My name is Margaret, and in this video I will be sharing with you the different steps in which you can take to become a South African qualified teacher or educator. Now, personally, I'm a qualified senior face and further education and training educator. Based on the information that I know, you may teach in government schools, that is state-owned schools, the public sector, or you may teach in the independently owned schools or governed schools, that is your private schools. I'm currently teaching in a private school, but yeah, so those are your two options. And what are the requirements for you to get into the government sector? Usually you'd have to do that through the Department of Education. A lot of times I do know that some schools, some public schools, the principals along with the SGB, the school governing body, they will advertise vacancies. You may come across these vacancies also like on social media, whereas with private schools you can come across these vacancies on the school's website, or you can go to the ISASA website. When it comes to government schools, there are quite a number of opportunities in that space. But because we're in South Africa and you know the challenges that we face with corruption and sometimes it's really hard to get those jobs, especially if you don't know someone who's already working there who can maybe pass on your CV and that type of stuff. Yeah, it can be quite a bit of a challenge to get a job there, but that's not to say it is impossible. Okay, it can be done. All right. Yeah, so you can go through the Department of Education. You can check on the school's website. I know some public schools don't even have a website. But yeah, and then there's also the idea that some government schools are Model C. And with Model C schools, there are also schools that are more resourced than other public or government schools, maybe those that are in the township or those that are in rural areas. And some of the disadvantages of these schools within the government sector that are in the rural areas or in the townships are that you find that the ratio of teacher to scholars or students is slightly higher. So you find in a class where there's one teacher, there's like 60 children or students or learners that need to be taught by this one teacher. So you can only imagine, if you've done your teaching degree, how difficult or challenging it may be to manage the classroom, especially as far as behavior is concerned, and ensuring that teaching time is still maintained. Whereas with Model C schools, which are more so found in urban areas, they have better resources, like they have computers and all that other stuff, labs and they have better resources, and the teacher to student ratio is slightly lower. So you find for one teacher, the teacher has maybe 30 or 40 scholars or students in a class. So that is the difference when it comes to public schools and whether you're in a Model C or just a public school. With private schools, they are independently owned. A lot of times you find that the teacher to student ratio is really low. So for one teacher in a class, you find that you're only teaching about 20 to 30 students. And also parents are paying higher fees for their children to be enrolled in those schools. The usage of technology in those schools, as a teacher, you really need to be tech savvy, know the latest technology when it comes to teaching or facilitating your lessons and as opposed to public schools, where sometimes because of the lack of resources, you find that teachers don't even have personal laptops to begin with. There are quite a number of challenges within the public sector or public schools in South Africa. When it comes to salaries, I would say salaries range between 100,000 per annum to 340,000 per annum, with an average of 234,000 per annum, depending on which school you teach at. Majority of the videos that I have watched or some information that I've seen shared on the internet, I think is more so based on the schools within the government sector as opposed to those in the private sector, because I find schools in the private sector, pay higher salaries, but sometimes you find that they don't have as much benefits as opposed to government schools. So that's something to think about. And also there are other things that you need to bear in mind when it comes to salaries. They're based on which school, whether it's government or private, which school you're teaching at, is it rural or in the urban areas, and then your qualifications and also your experience does count. Actually, this recently came to my attention that in government schools, when you have an honors, you are given a lump sum, so maybe like a 10,000 rands, just to say, you know, congratulations, shout out to you. Only when you get like your master's and your PhD does it then start having an impact on your salary. You would get paid higher for completing your master's as opposed to if you've just completed your honors. And then in the private sector, it depends from one school to the other. Other schools do value your high level of education, and then other schools don't. So it really depends. In the next video, I will speak of how to register with the South African Council of Educators and what that whole body is all about. Till then, see you and goodbye.